Okay, what's an elastic phrase?
Elastigirl? That was not what you're asking.
Yeah.
Elastic timeline.
Elastic timeline.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about elastic waistband. I don't know where I was going with this.
Ain't nothing wrong with an elastic waistband, though.
No.
Yeah,
I mean-
you know what? You know what really could use some more elastic waistbands?
Jeans?
Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice. Welcome to Sick Burn Jane, a.k.a. Austin Austin, a Podlander Drunkcast podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Julie.
That's Janine. She was drinking her coffee.
Hi.
And we are joined by friend of the show, who a pretty significant percentage of you have said you have a friend crush on, Emma Fraser. Emma, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Everyone is, of course, in American tradition, obsessed with your accent, but also that lovely brain. So we're very excited to have you back and talk about all kinds of things with regard to this P&P. But first, I have two questions.
Sure.
One, infamously, you had not seen the miniseries. Had you seen this one?
No. No.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I know,
Wow.
right? I know.
I love that our podcast is somehow exposing you to even more culture.
To British
great.
culture.
I love it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look at us Americans.
No, it's
Just-
great.
Would you like to talk about football?
Sure. I can.
You know, that's what they call it over there.
Oh,
we do,
gosh.
yes.
Yeah. And for some reason, I was about to say go up box instead of lift, and that's 100% a 30 Rock joke. That's what Michael should
Go up box.
Go up box. Okay, that was question one. So I'm very curious on. Well, I'm sure we'll get that throughout. Question two. When I was a child, growing up in Michigan, in the Midwest, I had to go on field trips to like the gypsum mines or like Jennison House, which is just a house that happened to be built at a totally reasonable time because America is 5 minutes old. So when you were growing up,
Sure.
were you ever like, today we're going on, I don't know what you would call it, a go up box field trip. Were you ever like to Chatsworth House?
We didn't go to
Or
Chatsworth.
places like that? Stately Manors?
I mean, there was a little bit of that. We went to, well, I'm from Stratford-upon-Avon originally, so Shakespeare country.
Oh, you saw a lot. You did a lot of field trips.
So it's kind of like everywhere, but also because we're relatively close to Birmingham, so we went to the Black Country Museum, which is where Peaky Blinders is essentially kind of filmed around there.
Cool.
So yeah, it was kind of a mixture, I guess, of industrial, and then also like we'd go to like Blenheim Palace with my family, which sounds like we were staying there, but it wasn't.
That's my image. That's the image I'm holding on to, though. You guys are fancy.
Yeah, so there was lots of castles. Warwick Castle's great. Look it up. It's got a moat.
Love a moat.
So
Here's a
yeah.
question that I have. As Allison said, as Americans going on the field trips when you're a kid, it's like, this house was built in 1862. And you're like, I can conceive of that.
Sure.
But then when you're in Britain and you go to a castle or something and they're like, this was built in 1100.
Yeah.
Do English people ever have that moment of, damn, that's a long time ago? Or is it just...
Not really. One time so the village I live in, which is just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, it's this place called Bidford-on-Avon. They were building a car park, and they found some remains of like a Roman or something in the car park, and that was big. That was exciting. But anything around Shakespeare, no, that doesn't feel that old. But anything, I guess, pre that does. So yeah.
Growing up in Southeast Washington, one of our field trips was to go to our makeshift replica of Stonehenge.
What?
But what's really ridiculous about this makeshift replica of Stonehenge is that it was built as
Out of cars?
No, but as a mirror image, so it's actually incorrect because the architect of it didn't had the plans flipped or something like that.
That is the
amazing.
most American thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, so I'm currently watching I Love Lucy for the first time. I'm
Ooh,
very
that's fun.
obsessed. I'm on the final season, and so yeah, they just moved to Connecticut, and their house is early American, and it just makes me die every time she says it. Like, I'm like, what is this?
It's
What does that
15
mean?
minutes old.
Yes.
So yeah,
All right.
yeah.
See, now I just want to. We're gonna have to do like a bonus episode at some future date where all we do is talk about the field trips you did as a child. How many times did you have to go? How many times did you have to go to Shakespeare's house?
Actually, really not that many. Like, they were kind of like, you guys know this, it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool, great.
Like, actually, my friend went, like, if the boys' school is where Shakespeare went, so it is kind of like, it's just how it is in a weird way.
He's just alma mater. He's like,
It's
just
just part
remember,
of their identity.
you've got
Yeah.
something to live up to.
Go,
Shakespeare,
Will. Yeah.
Pretty much.
the endowment.
Being from Stratford-upon-Avon, do you have to back the is it a requirement in your, I don't know, township charter that you have to back William Shakespeare was just a single person who did the things? Or is it like your punk rebellious face, you're like, no, it was Christopher Marlowe and Queen Elizabeth?
No, see, I get weirdly like, no, yeah, he did do it. Like, you kind of are like, no, he wrote them.
It was Shakespeare alone.
Like, he's buried in the church in Stratford, and there's, like, all these rules about not being able to, like, look at the bone. Like, there's, like, people have been wanting to, like, x-ray the casket or the tomb, and there's, like, loads of shit about that.
Why do they want to do that?
I guess to see if it's him or what. Like, yeah, it's lots of conspiracies.
You open Shakespeare's casket, and it's just a piece of parchment that says, "Gotcha."
Yeah,
Okay.
No,
Please, Emma, whatever you were going to say.
No, I was
please.
just gonna say it's really nutty, and people do get really like intense about it. And I think because obviously the town's legacy, like if they took that away, it would be nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It would
That's
have
It
like
would be over for Stratford. Yeah.
That's like Metropolis, Illinois, right? Like that's Superman's home, and if you take that away from them, they're like, well, what? Fuck you. That's our bread and butter.
entire
or it's
identity.
like how every town named Springfield in the entire United States is like,
Simpsons.
it's us.
Yeah.
We're the Springfield.
We're the
Totally.
one.
We're it. We are the number one Springfield. Okay. None of that has anything to do with Pride and Prejudice. So let's talk about Pride and Prejudice. First thing first. Emma, did you, while you were watching this movie, happen to look down to take a note when Matthew McFadden did this?
Yeah, I enjoyed the hand stuff.
Good.
Oh, so
Okay.
you saw it. Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Because Julie
I
looked
missed it.
down to take a note, missed the entire thing, and then spent like 2 episodes being loud and wrong about it. Just kidding.
But then I admitted I was wrong, and we
Yeah,
recorded
like
an
a-
entire episode about that 0.2 seconds
But-
of film.
Oh, I know.
But this is Keirafest, and what we will do during Keirafest is celebrate all the things for this Joe Wright PP, as well as your
right.
mistake.
Okay, cool.
All right. Other than that, I just had to check and make sure you saw the hand flags. What did you think? What were your responses? How does it compare to the miniseries?
Well, I love Atonement a lot, and
Yes.
I actually didn't
Oh, I
realize
forgot
that
to
this
do
was
this.
his debut feature. Like,
yeah.
and it's really impressive. Like,
I don't think I realized that either.
yeah, it's his debut feature,
Wow.
and
Holy shit!
right.
Oh my god.
There's like
That's incredible.
There's a confidence with the camera movement, like those steady cam shots. I thought it felt more lived in a weird way than the BBC one. Like it was more lively. Like I guess budget probably helps, and the fact it is a feature, so it's condensed into 2 hours. I thought he's always great with lighting, and it always sounds like when I write down the lighting is great. It always feels like it's such a weird note to make, but it's so beautifully shot. I thought it was great. I actually prefer it to the miniseries as well. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that's controversial. Is that controversial?
No.
Everybody has their own pee-pee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody has their own PP.
It's a personal PP experience.
Yeah.
Yes. And our sort of journey as a group, Janine had seen it before on a date, and then rediscovered his love for Keira Knightley. We're going to say rediscovered, even though I'm guessing it was just always there. I
Yes, it's never
liked
gone away.
this one a lot when I saw it initially, but then it sort of faded in my memory as being the other Pride and Prejudice that I really like, but the one that's not as good as the miniseries. And in revisiting, I was like, no, this movie fucks. It's really good.
It is really good.
So that was my journey. Julie had like a meh reaction to the first half, and then a borderline rapturous reaction to the second half.
The second
and is
half of the
now
movie is great.
on
Yeah.
a whole journey in that regard. So no, it's we're in all PPs are good PPs except for the musical.
Yeah.
That PP stank.
And Hallmark
It's a bad
Channel
PP.
tries at PP.
Well, but that wasn't a PP. That was a
You're right.
That was a Christmas movie that they tried to get an IP for. An IP. That was an IP.
IP.
Okay. How did you feel about our Lizzie and our Darcy?
Great. Again, I also didn't realize that Keira was only 20 when she made this movie, which is also insane. Like,
Bonkers.
she's always seemed older because I guess she did Pirates when she was really young as well. So it kind of feels like she's always been with us in the movies. But no, I really like them. I thought they had really great chemistry. It's weird because I'm a big Succession fan, like a lot of people. So it's weird to see, like, to take the Tom out of Matthew McFadden. Like, you kind of, it took me a moment. And also his hair was slightly distracting with the, like, sweepiness. I think
Very swoopy.
Colin has better hair. That's my... But generally, yeah, I thought their chemistry was great. Like, the final scene is particularly, like... It's a very horny movie for nothing, obviously, other than hand flexes. So.
Yeah. It's an extremely horny movie in which you don't see anyone have sex.
Yeah.
Except for with their eyes. Lots of eye sex.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of eye sex. Okay, so we like the movie. What was your response to the costuming? I feel like you've got really great, hot opinions, and then we're just going to ask you a bunch of questions because that's just,
Cool.
we're fascinated.
Well, I mean, I love Jacqueline Durant a lot. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's really good at period, like adding a slight hint of contemporary into it, but without making it seem contemporary. Like, because she won the Oscar for Little Women, and I think there's like a similar vibe in a way. I think the costumes are better in this, for me personally, like aesthetically, than the 95 version, just because apparently, like Joe Wright, I don't like the Empire like silhouette very much. Like, it's fine, but it's not my thing. But no, I think what she did was stunning. I think it was really good.
What about it particularly do you think is differentiates it from the miniseries? What's the biggest difference?
Well, I think color and material as well. Like, at this time in, like, because it is obviously before the 95 version, you can see the use of linen over cotton, especially in the things that Lizzie's wearing, like the fact that she's wearing a lot of browns and a lot of greens. I think the palette's great. I think the silhouettes also look incredible as well. Like, it's not too ostentatious. It feels more real in a way, and obviously there's probably going to be historical inaccuracies because there always are. But yeah, I thought just the use of color was really impressive.
Well, it seems that that's like more related to that pre-industrial revolution kind of stuff, right? Where it doesn't look as fabricated in that regard. Would that be right?
Yes. Yeah. And I did a bit of, I haven't actually done that much of this period before we started talking, actually. And I recently bought this book by this dress historian. Her name's Hilary Davidson. She's Australian, and it's Dressed in the Age of Jane Austen. And it's basically the history of that period and where you go from the kind of like natural corseting to the high empire waistline. And it's just so fascinating how it's all about the whole stuff to do with the French and how Britain was at war with France pretty much for like a 20-year period. And that's why it shifted away from the kind of ostentatious to this kind of version that's in this movie to then what we get in the later PMP, or earlier, I guess, if that, you know what I mean? Like the one that's set like in the actual Regency. I didn't realize that Empire the term for that dress was a 20th century term that was because it's the French Empire, the first French Empire. That's where
I
it
did
comes
not know
from.
that.
Yeah, so I actually have that written down. What's the date? So the first French Empire was 1804 to 1815, but the Empire line was as early as 1785, which is why I think it's cool that Caroline Bingley is the only person that has that high waist. I think that's at the Netherfield Ball when she's wearing the kind of... She's the only one who's not got cap sleeves. And yeah, only one sister. What was that? Sorry. like, yeah. So...
yeah, I wish she'd had another sister to talk to, but I hadn't clocked that. I mean, obviously she comes in and you can tell her dress is more expensive and obviously stylish, you know, like she's got that sort of ostentatious frippery thing going on. But I hadn't clocked that it would have been more of the moment, I guess. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We talked about this off mic, so just so that everybody listening, we may have talked about it in an earlier episode as well. Joe Wright's Pride and Prejudice is set earlier than the miniseries. So roughly speaking, it's as though the miniseries is set at the time that Pride and Prejudice was published, whereas Joe Wright's PP is set at about the time that it was written, when it was still called First Impressions. So that is what Emma's talking about here. And if you have been watching, if you watch and you think, wow, the costumes look really different, that's a huge part of why.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some really, I've talked about this before, how I like color story. And this one has a really interesting pattern story between Darcy and Elizabeth. So when she's at Pemberley and she's in that dress, it's vertical stripes. And when he comes in, also there's a very big moment in that when she sees him and Georgiana. That's so Atonement, that gasp, like the looking through the door. And then, so when they go and talk outside, he's got stripes on his waistcoat, but they're horizontal. And then when he comes back with Bingley, when Bingley, like, hooks up with Jane again, hooks up.
I love that. I love that sequence so much.
So then he's wearing vertical stripes. So it's like, it's weirdly that they're kind of coming together, but they're still kind of awkward. And then when he comes back, he's in the vertical stripes. So it's kind of like I might be reading too much into it, but I feel like that was purposeful, that there's this kind of like unity.
Yeah.
There's so much intention in this film on every level of it. I wouldn't be surprised if that was an intentional move.
Yeah.
So,
You know what I was thinking about as we were preparing for this is, and by that I mean as Emma was preparing for this, and Julie and Janine and I were all just like, we need to talk about costumes today. When I was trying to think of like what's the iconic costume from this movie, and I'm not sure that there is, other than maybe. No, because that's just a silhouette. I was going to say him striding across the field.
It's that duster, bud.
It
is
the
the duster.
Yeah,
The duster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Veering gently to the left.
This way, man.
This way, over here. That all of the costumes that I think about, at least for Lizzie, are all of her like, I'm fucking around the house, I'm sitting on a tire swing, I'm running down the path. Not, I'm going to a ball, I want to look my best. And those are beautiful. Like, the gown she wears to the Netherfield Ball with all the little flowers in her hair is beautiful.
Yeah.
She turns some looks. But I think much more of the stuff that she wears that's sort of wrinkled, that's very Jo Marchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, this Lizzie Bennet has big Jo March energy, and the Saoirse Ronan Jo March has big Lizzie Bennet energy.
Yeah.
So it works.
And there's I love a repeat costume. It's literally one of my favorite things. And it's the shawl that she has. It's kind of like her comfort shawl. It's like her security blanket. She has it throughout, and it's just cool to see that like thread. And I guess you wouldn't have a million things, and obviously the Bennets aren't meant to have that much money anyway, so it makes sense that she would have a repeat. But I think that's a really nice touch, is that she wraps this like embroidered shawl around her all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What did you think about our older characters, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, and of course Dame Judy coming in hot as Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Like, amazing. I think, again, impeccable casting. Like, all three of them were fantastic. I love, there's like a shot of Mrs. Bennet's shoes. Like, I think it's after the party, maybe when she's hungover.
When she's like bopping her feet.
Yeah. Like, it's just like stuff like that's cool. And I love that, like, Judy and her purple, because purple's always the sign that you've got a shit ton of money at this time.
Was that about dyes and expense of processing?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So purple tends to be regal, or it's Catholic a lot as well. Like, it's to do with like death and things. But yeah, it's always expensive. So I love that, you could see the generational thing. And also because this is set so close to the French Revolution, there's meant to be this whole thing about how the aristocracy were kind of shitting it a bit, that they were going to get it next. So there's this whole thing about how they're trying to come down to this, like, another level. But yeah, they still look kind of ridiculously rich in comparison. So.
I didn't think about this. The
was
wig, her wig is French. It really does look like French.
Yeah.
And really throws her back a little bit in time, which I thought was cool.
Very Outlander.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got kind of the younger, because I like that Jane obviously has her very own set color palette, like she's in the blues and pinks, and then you've got Lydia and Kitty being ridiculous. And I read a quote from Jacqueline Duran saying that she referred to them as Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and that they were always a mirror image of each other. So if one of them was wearing a green jacket, the other one would be wearing a green dress. So and then they'd flip.
Then you have Mary in black all the time.
Mary.
Yeah. Oh, Mary.
Jesus.
I hate balls.
She just wants to play piano, you know?
She does. She wants to exhibit her accomplishments, and she wants to marry a vicar, and then never speak to anyone ever again.
I thought the casting was fun of the girls. Well, I thought it was kind of weird that Jenna Malone was like the one American. Like, I thought she was good, but it kind of stood out to me that everyone else was like British cast, which I'm fine. If someone can do the accent, then that's cool. Mm-hmm. But it did.
Well, and Donald Sutherland.
Oh yes, of course. He seems British.
Yes.
You know what? You're right, though.
I feel like he's been adopted. He's actually got it.
He gives off big British energy.
I wouldn't mind claiming him for our own, to be honest.
Yeah, we get it. We understand.
I understand.
It's funny because Donald has big British energy, where his son Kiefer is pure America.
Yes.
Like there's a divide there. You can feel it.
His Kiefer is so pure America that they drop the A. It's America.
America.
Pure America.
Yeah.
America. What did you think of Jenna Malone? Because I really dig her as Lydia, but it's a very different take.
I like her. I thought it is a very different take. I think that who is it is it Julia Sawalha? Is that who plays her in? Oh no, it is Julia Sawalha, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. I think I prefer her Lydia, maybe. I also kind of didn't mind that they cut that storyline down. Obviously they have to for time. I wanted more Carey Mulligan, but that's just because I love Carey Mulligan.
Kitty Erasure.
So.
Kitty Erasure. I was just reflecting on Jenna Malone being the only American, and of course she's Lydia. Mm-hmm. Of course.
You know what? She does have. We talked about this in a previous episode. They both have such big America energy. Like, and when they leave for America, we're like, good. That's where you belong.
Yeah. You belong over there.
Yeah, you're gonna fit in just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the old folks, and we've talked about Lady Catherine, and we have talked about the sisters. Okay, so what about the dude costumes? We mentioned the duster as sort of the iconic costume here. What else is going on in that story?
Well, I think in a weird way, it's quite similar. Like, how Darcy, he's very, like, uptight. Everything's very specifically formal, somber. But that's kind of the era anyway. It's like this shift away, as I said before, like, from this kind of French influence where people were wearing makeup and powdered wigs and being a little bit, like, frilly and extra. And now they're kind of into the kind of going to the kind of neoclassical stuff. So this period's all about athletic bodies with the men, as we've seen with the thighs. Thighs are very important at this time.
Are they really?
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
It was all about the perfect athletic body for men.
I would have thrived during this time. My thighs are perfect.
Nice.
Awesome. Good
Yeah,
to know.
so they loved a thigh, loved to kind of revel in masculinity. The interesting thing about the redcoats, which I was reading in this Hilary Davidson book, is that basically that was just branding by the British military. Was they wanted a brand, they got it, and it's very effective, especially at the Netherfield party when most of the women are in white, they're in red, and the other men are in their usual gear. So they kind of the men in red stand out, and it's very kind of like erotic, and it's like the time when women, they're like the people that they can kind of objectify a little bit.
So,
and Kitty and Lydia did.
Yeah.
So from a branding, is that like the first time in history that we had that kind of like very vibrant military garb? Is that what's going on there?
I don't want to say 100% because I don't know what year it came in, but it was definitely like kind of relatively new at that period.
Interesting.
I would like to Google to double check this, but
Sure.
But yeah, it was definitely a newish thing, and I guess because they were constantly at war with various people like you guys.
Imperialism and colonialism. Hey yo.
So yeah, I wonder if maybe the redcoats, was like, because obviously the war with you was before this, so potentially that's maybe.
I like that it's with us.
Yeah, it was.
You know what? We surrender.
I will say I am, as you know, my surname is Fraser, so I always like pick the Scottish side of my family, who
There you go.
were also not into this whole thing.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm never part of the redcoat thing.
You know what I just got very excited about? I just got very excited about when Outlander comes back and we get to talk to Emma about the Outlander.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I will flex my Fraser-ness.
Yes.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Good Fraser flex.
And another thing that I learned from this book is that apparently the phrase scarlet fever comes from women being into this kind of man. Like,
No way.
Shit.
yeah.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I would like that's what this book says that scarlet fever was about women getting the hots for.
did the ailment exist first and then they just used it like Urban Dictionary to talk about the dudes in red?
I reckon they must have done. Like, scarlet fever's been around for a long time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had it.
Oh wow.
Oh.
I fucking had scarlet fever when I was in second grade.
Oh my god.
You slut.
It was fucked up, man. And the house that we lived in at the time was a big old house, and my convalescence was a week in this bedroom with like blue and ivy wallpaper. Do not recommend.
So you got like a little bit Beth Marge,
Yes.
little bit yellow wallpaper.
Yes.
All in one.
But I was only 8, so I don't think that the like cognitive function was strong enough to really drive myself crazy in 1 week. I was just really bored.
So
wow.
there's another fun thing about the military as well, other than military dress, like then going into civilian dress, which obviously still now, like a lot of like cardigans and things are from military. Basically, it's the place where men could like show off more, and then not be concerned that people were going to question their masculinity. So the ribbon in Wickham's hair and his like very long, luscious hair, like. In the military, you could like be like, "Hey, I like fashion, but I don't have to like, peacocking, perfect, yeah." It's the one place where they could, do that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, read this book is so great. I feel like when you read something, you're like, oh, like that's me reading this book.
I mean, I'm sold. Gimme. I'm doing it. Okay. I feel like the next important question is, from watching, as a person who loves Atonement, from watching this 2005 PP, are you able to draw any threads in your mind between the costumes in this and the costumes in that?
Yes.
Sidebar, obviously we should also talk about the green dress. But
Well, that's the link. So she wears
Great.
the green dress in this. Obviously, it's a very different green dress in a very different moment. But I literally saw Kara in green, and I was like, Atonement, like, I can't see her in that color,
Atonement.
and then be like, yeah, like, so that would be the one place where I'll immediately like, and then again, that movie is all about class as well, and being accepted, and the fact that everything happens because one person's poor and the rest are rich. So yeah, like costume wise, definitely green dress. Like Jacqueline Duran is like a goddamn fucking like that is one of the best costumes of all time. The Atonement green dress. Like, yeah. And she won her Oscars she's been nominated 7 times. She's worked with Joe Wright 5 times. And yeah, she was nominated for Pride and Prejudice, and she was nominated for Atonement, and she won for Anna Karenina and Little Women with Greg Gerwig. So.
I haven't seen that Anna Karenina.
No, I haven't either, no.
That.
And that's Joe Wright as well. And do you know what she's doing next? So the next movie she's got coming out. So she's period lady, but she's done the Batman, the new Batman movie.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool as hell.
Yeah. So yeah, the Batman's
Robert Pattinson in a green bat suit.
Yes. I would like to see. Oh, and the new Princess Diana movie, The Spencer with Casey.
Oh.
She's done that as well.
Cool.
So I think
God, I bet that's
even
gonna
if
be great.
the movie is going to be, I have no idea what the movie's going to be like, but I think the costumes are obviously going to be
The costumes
exceptional.
will be great.
So.
She also did she do the Pew Naissance? No, that's the Fassbender Macbeth. Never mind. Right, because that's Lady Macbeth. No, she did the Fassbender Cotillard Macbeth too.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great movie. Well, I quite like it. It's kind of weird, but
it is weird, but it
looks
good
amazing.
watch.
She just did 2 episodes of Small Axe, the Steve McQueen anthology. She did Lovers Rock, which is the house party one, which is stunning.
So good.
Yeah. So she's just like a phenomenal costume designer who isn't just one period. And I think what she shows with period costume is that you can have what you would expect, but then like with this Pride and Prejudice, there's like a whole other story that you might not expect. Basically.
Yeah. One of the things that I love about the costumes in this one is I feel like it does a much better job of underlining the class difference. And the miniseries is my PP, but it does a much better job of underlining the class differences through the costumes. Because you look at Judy, every time that you go to somebody who's richer than the Bennets, you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Ooh.
And by the time you arrive at Lady Catherine's joint, at Lady Catherine's sweet pad, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, they're not peasants, but they're not rich, because that's rich.
Yeah.
That's very rich.
What I really like as well is how in the Bennett home there's like just material everywhere. Like there's like ribbons and like there's like you can tell that they're fixing things. There's that kind of element in there as well, which I think is really cool.
Or like making old dresses look new, or like putting a ribbon on it to update it, or like that's interesting. I wouldn't have put that together, but that's 100% why they have a pile of them.
Yeah.
Well, and when they talk about the ball, like all the girls go to Jane to ask her to like use her dress, but also like take apart other dresses to put onto dresses. I remember
It's
that.
like Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
They're Frankensteining their ball looks.
Yeah. And
there's one of the P&P alts that I read, Longbourn, one of the more famous ones, which is about the servants at Longbourn during the period of Pride and Prejudice. It's fine. But there's a whole chapter that the premise of the chapter comes from one sentence in Pride and Prejudice, and the sentence is, even the very shoe roses for Netherfield were bought by proxy. And they're like, so what that means is it was raining, so instead of them going to buy their own stupid little attachments for their slippers, they had the servants go. So it's just like one of the servants marching through the rain to buy little tiny things to put on their shoes for the Netherfield ball. Anyway, because you got to get your shoe roses.
Yeah, duh.
I'd watch that PP adaptation, a Longbourn adaptation with just the servants.
I think there might be a film option in the works somewhere.
I'd watch that.
Was fine.
So that's the downstairs version of Upstairs Downstairs. Janine, did you ever watch Upstairs Downstairs?
No.
There you go. You would be into it.
That sounds like I'd be into that.
Did you ever watch Gosford Park?
Ooh.
No.
That's
don't-
upstairs,
yeah.
downstairs in like 2 hours.
Oh,
Okay.
it's so good. Gosford Park is a good ass.
I've not seen it.
I've
Actually.
watched all the Dunes.
Oh,
really
you would
good.
love it. You would love it. The costumes are so cool.
Yes,
you would love
and
it.
the acting is amazing. Gosford Park. Emma, just go watch it.
I'm intrigued by this 1940 version of Pride and Prejudice as well. Like, because also from a costume point of view, it looks bananas. Because
It's terrible.
It's Adrian who I love, but yeah, it looks like kind of like Gone with the Wind. Like,
Yes.
but Pride and Prejudice.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
This is the one with Sir Larry, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this. They actually used some of the costumes from Gone with the Wind so that they recycled them.
Right.
So obviously that makes it set 100 years after it would have been.
Yeah, but they also were like, those costumes are boring. We want
puff.
hoop skirts. Let's
want-
do this. Who
We
cares?
want ham hock sleeves. We want,
And
It is
then
weird-
let's add
Sorry.
some archery. We'll just add some archery. That'll be fun. That's weird.
Yeah, Regency's funny because obviously at the moment it's having its time again because of Bridgerton, which has obviously put like a modern spin on it as well, color wise and things. But yeah, it is interesting how Regency is quite divisive in terms of cut and stuff. Like, I think it's fine. It's not like my favorite.
I think it just looks comfortable.
Yes, yeah, there is that definitely.
I love, just put me in something lightweight and flowy and
Yeah.
let me lounge around the house.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
It optimizes my fashion dreams. You know, tall boots and a long jacket.
yes, yeah. I think I prefer the men's clothes. To be honest. That's why I
Yeah.
like Lizzie's stuff in it as well because there is that kind of masculine kind of tailoring to her looks
'Cause she
as well.
she has a long jacket that she wears every now and then, which
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
into.
And in that last
Yeah.
scene when they're walking across.
in their matching dusters.
With that
And
open
she's in
shirt.
her nightgown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
in his jammies too. Because
Yeah.
remember, it's all like open to the
It's all
navel.
open, and it's like swinging behind him, and we just
He's just-
visualize
I'm bearing
that
my
red
heart to
flag.
you and
Just
the rest of my sternum.
Serving Heathcliff realness.
Yeah, very Bronte.
Yeah.
All right, Janine, Julie, do y'all have more questions for Emma? Things you want to inquire about? Anything? Our sage. No? Cool.
No.
Emma,
Are there other things that you were like, I want to make sure we talk about this?
let me have a look at my notes. I think actually we've done quite a lot of the stuff that I wanted to.
Yay!
Oh, I do have a question. So we briefly talked about this, and it won't take long for you to, like, I don't know. So the costume, the time period that this one is set in, that Joe Wright's is set in, would it be full corsetry? Or would it be a transition between the full corset and just the top corset?
It seems like it's a transition. So it's like it is the more kind of natural waistline corsets because there is that moment, isn't there, where they're getting pulled as well. But yeah, it seems transitional to me. Like,
Okay.
I think everything about this period is weirdly transitional. They're like, yeah, like
I felt
it's
that. It did feel that way. It felt like everything was in between something.
yeah,
Like the whole movie. And the thing that I appreciate about this movie so much, and we've talked about this too, is that it feels more real, like realistic, like lived in. Like we talked about how you could smell everybody at
Yeah.
Ooh,
at the ball.
actually, there is
Yeah.
something I do want. So that shot of her, like with her coat flapping in the wind, like it seemed like that should be in Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful shot. And so the first shot of Pemberley is insane. Like it does that makes you realize how rich he is. I don't necessarily know if the 95 version made me think, oh, this guy is like crazy rich. Whereas this, I was like, oh, he's got a statue of him.
I feel like in this one, the outside was obviously gorgeous, but the 95 one was more impressive to me from the outside. But this one, it's about the inside.
Yes.
It's about his like marble statuary collection and his crazy frescoes on the ceilings and what his
Right?
taste, like his taste level is off the chart. And you're like, oh, he
But it feels like people live there. That's
Yeah.
my issue with the 95 one, is that it doesn't feel like anybody lives there.
agreed.
Yeah,
This
it
is
feels
like,
like a museum.
this is their home. It just happens to be a home that people go on tours in.
Could you imagine stumbling through that statuary, like trying to get a drink of water? Like in the middle of the night, being like,
I
"Oh
just
fuck!"
have to pee, and my
Yeah.
chamber pot wasn't there.
And then like shadows
Every time
keep
you pass
catching.
that one sculpture with the fine ass, you just slap it as you walk past.
Ow!
I know Darcy does that.
And there's
bam.
there's one whose eyes feels like it's following you, so you kind of avoid it.
Yeah, you go around the backside of that one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally.
Oh man. That's
So
a
here's
lot.
what's got to happen. Julie, Janine, and I, we're all going to plan a field trip to the UK, and we're going to come to upon Avon. What was the
Well,
name?
that's not where I live now. That's where
Great.
my mom is. So Stratford
Okay.
Avon. Now I'm in Norwich, which has a
Norwich.
castle that was built in like 1100, and my apartment is right by some of the old city wall, which is just there.
See
That's
what I'm saying?
fucking- that's
That fucking
cool.
fuck with my mind.
So
When
we're
you
coming
say
to
1100, I'm
we're
like,
coming
no.
to Norwich. We're gonna slap the city wall, and then we're going to put in a request for a tour of your apartment,
Cool.
so that you can show us all of the aspects of your stately home.
Yes,
That's gonna be
it's
sweet.
this.
Great.
But actually, when
Amazing.
there's a line about one of them going to Matlock, and my hen weekend, so bachelorette weekend, I guess, we went to that area of the country because we got a nice Airbnb. So
Cool.
yeah. It wasn't a stately home. It wasn't the Darcy Palace.
That would be a weird place
Yeah.
to
Can
get
you
drunk
imagine-
and tip drag queens. That would be.
Can you imagine you're just like, I'll take this Airbnb. Oh, the pictures look nice, whatever. And then you show up and it's Pemberley.
You show up and you stand up in your carriage and go.
And go,
It's just the statuary with a mattress in the corner. Like, oh,
oh no, that's too real.
No.
That's too dark.
that we're not seeing in our little Zoom view of Emma's office is that she's seated directly next to her personal large marble statue of herself. It's just out of frame.
And it's got a hand like this, so every time she walks past, high five herself.
Well, I have news I want to share with Emma, which is that Emma, after we get done with Joe Wright's PP and we have some like wrap ups for this, we're calling it's first half, but really the first in an ongoing series because people are going to make Pride and Prejudice adaptations forever. But it's the end of our first chunk of PP adaptations. This is the end of it, and we're going to do some little wrap up things, and then we're starting Emma.
Oh, cool. I have seen some of these, so
Great. I think we're starting with the 96, the Gwyneth Paltrow
Cool.
one. But
Yeah.
but of all of the Emmas that I'm excited to talk to you about, and I'm excited to talk to you about various and sundry Emmas, the one I am most looking forward to, Clueless. I can't fucking wait to talk
Yeah.
to you about Clueless.
It's my personal fave. So
It's gonna be so good. Oh, it's gonna
Yeah.
rule.
I just realized actually one person we haven't talked about who I need to just because of his hair mostly is Tom Holland as Mr. Collins because wow.
A divisive performance. How did you
I
feel
really
about this,
did.
Mr.
I mean,
Collins?
I love him in everything. I think he's great. Like he's one of those actors that shows up and I'm always like, fabulous. You're going to make me laugh and be wonderful. Yeah, no, I didn't know he was divisive.
It's all
As
about,
this.
yeah.
in this group.
In this, I didn't care for.
No, I just think
I dig him. I just don't dig him as much as I dig David Bamber. In
David
That's-
Bamber is.
Yeah, so that's probably true. I just think his hair is so like the kind of bowl cut mullet. Is
I will
like,
say that straight line on the bangs, 100%. He did it
So
himself
funny.
in the mirror at Rosings.
yes,
Yeah,
perfect. It's just such a
Yeah.
good detail.
it's really wonderful. Janine cuts his own hair.
Impressive.
So there but for the grace of God go you,
nice.
Yeah.
Janine.
This is
Yeah, but you do a good job.
Oh, see,
Collins doesn't give a fuck.
I have a slight shaved side too, and my husband did it yesterday. He kind of trimmed it because it was getting a bit long. So
I'm
That's
trying to figure out how to deal with the crown of my head because I mostly just assume it doesn't exist and I like put stuff over it. But I know it's getting floofy. It's getting very, very floofy. And
Embrace
the wind.
the floof.
I will. Speaking of the floof, look at this little.
Oh, look at
Oh,
little
look
Jasper.
at him.
Look
All
at
right.
that
Oh,
little
he's
guy.
out in the front room. Okay.
Well, that is going to do it for us for this week. We will be back next week, and I'm going to do all my stuff later to spare Emma having to listen to our list of wonderful patrons. But there are so many of you. So that's a flex, but it's also pretty boring to just watch someone read on Zoom. So we're not going to do it on camera. Emma, thank you so much.
No, thank
so
you.
much. I've been looking forward to this.
Yay!
It was great. No, it's been a blast. And thank you for introducing me to the world of Pride and Prejudice, which I guess I should have watched already or read.
Criminal.
And I hadn't. I still haven't read it, but I have now watched it. So.
It's a good book. I don't know. Maybe.
I have a copy, actually. I
assume that came in your starter kit, though.
Yes.
Yeah, like you're born and all of a sudden everybody's shoving Shakespeare and Jane Austen at you. Read this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You've got your marble statue, which I assume grows with you. So, like, when you're a baby, it's like this big. And then it just grows. Great. And then you've got a little jar of clotted cream, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes.
And then, like...
some tea.
Tea, of course, obviously. Maybe, like, a recipe for, like, a scone.
Yeah.
And then, like...
Although I'm a scone person in terms of pronunciation.
Oh, yes,
like,
that's true.
No, it's fine. My
Scone.
husband says scone. I say scone. It's like a whole thing. So
Scone. How do you say the town in which Roman baths are found?
Oh, Bath. Oh my God,
Bath.
Bath. Yeah.
I love it. Because Americans bath.
Bath.
Bath. And it bath is better.
Yeah.
Okay. For real, though, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Stay tuned for Julie and Aaron and I, who's Aaron? Janine and I giggling about how good that episode was.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
She's so good.
I know.
Just really good. And she's very patient with our British jokes.
I know.
Really is. Though she was, pointing to us for the American Revolution, so I guess we're kind of even on that.
Yeah.
Again, we surrender.
Yeah.
We surrender.
You know what? We're sorry. But sorry, not sorry. Maybe sorry again.
I don't know.
I don't
Time
know.
is weird. A lot of elastic.
Elastic.
A lot of elastic
waistbands.
waistbands.
Yeah.
And that's going to do it for us for this week. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PodlanderDrinkcast. You can find us on Twitter at PodlanderCast and also at SickBurnJane. You can find us on Instagram at PodlanderCast and at SickBurnJane and at Podlander Presents.
Hey,
Oh,
We fancy.
We fancy. We're also on the internet. At Podlander. Nope.
It's not
no
up
idea.
yet.
It's not up yet. Never mind. Shut up. Shut up.
We're
It's not-
working on it.
getting there.
You can also, of course, find us on Patreon, where you can back all of our shows at patreon.com/PodlanderDrunkcast, where you can get Janine's Corner. There's a brand new Janine's Corner about Janine's new corner. Do you get that?
It's new.
Because he moved.
It's new and the same.
And also, I'm sure is there a Jasper appearance in that one?
No, because that was like really early in the move, so he was hiding under the bed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Future Jasper appearances, though. You can look
I
for
mean,
future
look
Jasper
how
appearances.
comfortable he is right
He's
now.
looking real good right now.
Just
He
hanging
looks
out on that
great.
fucking couch behind my shoulder. He's loving this.
God, he's so cute.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/PodlanderDrunkcast, where you can find all the things. We want to thank all of our patrons who make it possible for us to do the show, which is not cheap. But we especially want to thank the following wonderful people. Have I already done the joke where I say everything slow? I have.
Yeah.
Gia Spree, Mallory Smith, Catspaw156, Maddie Perkins, Snazinach, Lisa Briand, Julia Gulia, she of the Be Better blanket, first of her name. Kathleen Martini, Lauren Tennant, Kelsey Kemp, Madison Johnson, Emily Day, Betsy English, Caitlin Reddick, Ashley Tigeson, Kristen Freckled Fury, Laura Colm, Amelia Bazell, Liz and Tinkerbell, how dare I, Stella Welch,
on.
Chrissy Shively, Claire Feeney, Rochelle Lefevre, Heather Robbins, Jerry Hurdle, Emily Carlson, Amy Gustafson, Rachel Townsend, Steph Peterson, Kelly Mazzella, Chantel Salters, Mary the Falling Statue, Tara Lucchino, Viv Pickles, A.K. Laura, Mary of the Grapefruit, Jenna Bukowski, Ann Gibson, Ruth McCormick, Kara Marlowe, Trish McCurry, Julie Toit. Julie, I'm so sorry. Jen Leonard Drunklin, Kelly Bottom, and Kiki the Wise. Thank you so much for your support of the show. It means so much. We will be back next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.